You've been told your entire life that putting yourself first is selfish. That thinking about your own happiness makes you a bad person. That sacrifice is noble and self-interest is ugly. But here's the problem with that logic. If everyone should sacrifice themselves for others, who exactly benefits? You're supposed to sacrifice for them, they're supposed to sacrifice for you. It's a race to the bottom where everyone loses. Ayn Rand saw through this trap. She introduced a concept that made people uncomfortable then, and still does today: rational selfishness. Not the selfishness you've been warned about, something completely different. In the next 23 minutes, you're going to understand what rational selfishness actually means, why it's not what you think, and how it could completely change the way you make decisions in your relationships, your family, and your career. This isn't about becoming cold or ruthless. It's just about finally understanding what it means to live for yourself without apology, and why that's the most moral thing you can do. Here is how most people understand selfishness. It's when you take what you want without caring about anyone else. The guy who cuts you off in traffic. The coworker who takes credit for your work. The friend who only calls when they need something. That version of selfishness? It's destructive, it's irrational. And Ayn Rand would agree with you that it's wrong. But here's where society made a dangerous leap. They took that ugly version of selfishness and said, therefore, concern for yourself is wrong. Anytime you prioritize your needs, you're being selfish in the bad way. So what did they offer instead? Sacrifice. Put others first. Your value comes from how much you give up for other people. Your happiness doesn't matter as much as theirs. If you're not suffering for someone else, you're not being a good person. Think about how this plays out. Your mother calls and demands you cancel your plans to run an errand she could easily handle herself. You feel guilty, saying no. Your boss asks you to work another weekend, the 5th in a row. You feel selfish asking for time off. Your partner wants you to give up a career opportunity because it makes them uncomfortable. You feel wrong for even considering it. You've been trained to feel guilty for having a self. And here rests the cruelest part. The people who preach sacrifice the loudest are often the ones who benefit from your sacrifice. They're not sacrificing. You are. They just convinced you it's noble. This confusion between rational self-interest and destructive selfishness has trapped millions of people in lives they don't want. Relationships that drain them, and careers that make them miserable. All because they've been told that putting themselves first is morally wrong. Ayn Rand saw this lie for what it was, and she spent her life exposing it. So what did Ayn Rand actually mean by rational selfishness? Let us start with her definition. Rational selfishness is the pursuit of your own happiness as your highest moral purpose, guided by reason, not whims. Break that down into 3 parts. First, your own happiness is your highest moral purpose. Not your family's happiness, not your boss's comfort, not society's approval. Yours. You are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the protagonist of your own life. And treating your life as anything less than your primary value is a betrayal of yourself. This doesn't mean you don't care about other people. It means you don't sacrifice yourself for them. There's a difference, a massive one. Second, guided by reason, not whims. This is where rational selfishness separates itself from the impulsive, destructive behavior most people call selfish. The guy who cheats on his wife because he wants excitement? That's not rational selfishness. That's self-destruction disguised as self-interest. He's destroying his own values, his integrity, his long-term happiness for a short-term feeling. Rational selfishness requires thinking. It requires asking, what serves my actual long-term well-being? What aligns with my values? What makes my life better in a real, sustainable way? The coworker who steals credit might get a short-term win, but they've destroyed trust, damaged relationships, and undermined their own reputation. That's not self-interest. That's stupidity. Ayn Rand argued that genuine self-interest and rationality go hand in hand. You cannot truly serve yourself by acting irrationally. You cannot build a good life by lying, cheating, or manipulating, because those actions destroy the very foundation you need for happiness: self-esteem, honest relationships, and a reality-based approach to life. Third, it's a moral pursuit, not a compromise. Most people think morality means sacrifice. Ayn Rand flipped that completely. She said the truly moral person is the one who refuses to sacrifice themselves or others. You don't live for others, and you don't expect others to live for you. You trade value for value. You build relationships based on mutual respect and benefit, not obligation or guilt. You offer your time, energy, and love to people who genuinely add to your life, and you don't feel guilty removing people who drain you. Now let's be clear about what rational selfishness is not. It's not, I do whatever I want, whenever I want, and everyone else can deal with it. It's not, ignoring consequences, hurting people for fun, or treating others as disposable. It's not, refusing to help anyone ever, or being cold and isolated. Rational selfishness is deeply connected to living in reality. And reality includes the fact that humans thrive in relationships, that cooperation creates value, that integrity matters. A rational selfish person understands this. They build strong relationships because strong relationships make their life better. They act with integrity because integrity protects their self-esteem and their reputation. The difference is motive. They're not doing it to be selfless. They're doing it because it genuinely serves their life and their happiness. Ayn Rand put it simply, you don't sacrifice yourself to others, and you don't sacrifice others to yourself. You exist for your own sake. And that is not only moral, it's the only way to live a life worth living. Let's make this concrete. Here's how rational selfishness plays out in 3 areas of your life. Application 1. Relationship. Sarah has been dating Mark for 2 years. Mark is comfortable. He's nice enough. But Sarah feels stuck. She wants to travel, build a business, explore new opportunities. Mark wants to stay exactly where they are. He doesn't want her to take risks. He gets upset when she talks about her goals because it makes him feel insecure. Sarah's friends tell her, relationships are about compromise. You can't always put yourself first. If you really loved him, you'd be willing to sacrifice your dreams. Here's the rational selfishness response. Sarah's life is hers, not Mark's. Not her friends. The purpose of a romantic relationship is not to sacrifice yourself to make someone else comfortable. The purpose is mutual joy, growth, and support. If Mark doesn't support her values and goals, if being with him requires her to become smaller, then staying with him is not love. It's self-betrayal, and that's not sustainable. Eventually, she resents him. Eventually, the relationship will collapse anyway, but she have wasted years. The rationally selfish choice? Sarah evaluates, does this relationship genuinely make my life better? Does Mark add to who I am, or does he subtract from it? If the answer is subtract, she leaves. Not with cruelty, not with drama, but with clarity. This isn't cold, it's honest. And honestly, it's better for Mark too. He deserves someone who actually wants the life he wants, not someone who's slowly dying inside while pretending to be happy. Ayn Rand would say, you don't owe someone your life just because they want it. Love is not sacrifice. Love is mutual celebration of each other's existence. If that's not happening, it's not love. Application 2. Family. John's mother calls him every week with a crisis. She's lonely. She needs help with something minor. She guilt trips him if he doesn't drop everything and come over immediately. I'm your mother. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? John has his own life. A demanding job, a young family. His own responsibilities. But every time his mother calls, he feels the guilt. He cancels plans. He shows up. He sacrifices his time, his energy, his peace of mind because he's been told, family comes first. You owe your parents everything. Here's the rational selfishness lens. John didn't ask to be born. He didn't sign a contract that said, in exchange for being brought into the world, I owe you my entire life. His mother made a choice to have a child. That was her decision. And yes, she invested time and resources into raising him. But that was her job as a parent. It wasn't a loan that he has to repay forever. The rationally selfish approach? John sets boundaries. He tells his mother, I love you, but I can't drop everything every time you call. I have my own family and responsibilities. I'm happy to see you on weekends, but I need you to respect my time. If she reacts with guilt, manipulation, or anger, that's information. That tells John she doesn't actually respect him as an independent person. She sees him as an extension of herself, a resource to meet her needs. And here's the key. Setting that boundary is not cruel. It's necessary. Because the alternative is John slowly burning out, resenting his mother, damaging his own family, and eventually exploding. The boundary protects both of them. Ayn Rand would say, you don't owe anyone your life, not even your parents. Respect and affection should be earned and chosen, not extracted through guilt. A healthy family relationship is based on mutual value, not obligation. Application 3. Work. Lisa is a talented software engineer. She works at a company that constantly asks her to take on extra projects, work late, cover for underperforming coworkers. Her boss says, "We're a family here. We all need to pitch in." Lisa wants to ask for a raise. She's been there 3 years and hasn't had one, but she feels selfish asking. Everyone's working hard. The company is going through a tough time. Shouldn't she just be grateful she has a job? Here's rational selfishness. Lisa is trading her time, skills, and energy for money. That's the deal. She's not there to sacrifice herself for the company. The company is not her family. It's a business relationship. If she's underpaid and overworked, she has 3 rationally selfish options. Negotiate for what she's worth. Accept the situation if it serves other goals like learning or flexibility, or leave for a better opportunity. What's not rational? Staying out of guilt while quietly resenting it. That serves no one. It doesn't help the company because she's not genuinely motivated. It doesn't help Lisa because she's undervaluing herself and building resentment. The rationally selfish move? Lisa documents her value, schedules a meeting with her boss, and clearly states what she wants: a raise that reflects her contributions. If they say no, she starts looking elsewhere. This isn't disloyal. Loyalty that's not reciprocated is just exploitation dressed up with nice words. Ayn Rand would say, "You don't owe your employer sacrifice. You owe them the work you agreed to do, and they owe you fair compensation. Anything beyond that is voluntary trade, not moral obligation. And if the trade isn't working for you, it's rational to find one that does." Now let's address the 2 biggest objections people have to rational selfishness. Objection 1. If everyone acted in their own self-interest, society would collapse into chaos. People would just hurt each other. We need sacrifice to hold civilization together. This objection assumes that self-interest means harming others. It doesn't. Ayn Rand would respond, rational self-interest actually requires a functioning society. Think about it. If you're genuinely pursuing your own long-term happiness, you need a stable environment where contracts are honored, property is protected, and you're free to trade and build. The rationally selfish person doesn't want chaos. Chaos destroys value. They don't want to live in a world where everyone lies, steals, and manipulates. That makes their own life worse. Here's the key. Rational self-interest leads to cooperation, not conflict. When both parties are acting in their genuine self-interest, they find mutually beneficial arrangements. You want something I have, I want something you have, we trade, both of us benefit. No sacrifice required. The chaos people fear doesn't come from rational self-interest. It comes from irrational behavior disguised as self-interest. The person who thinks stealing serves them because they do understand that it destroys their own integrity and reputation. The person who manipulates because they don't see that trust is more valuable than short-term gain. A society of rationally selfish people would actually be incredibly peaceful and productive. Because everyone would understand that their happiness depends on respecting reality, respecting rights, and building genuine value instead of trying to take it from others. The alternative, a society based on sacrifice, is what creates resentment, manipulation, and exploitation. Because sacrifice always means someone is losing, and eventually they rebel. Objection 2. What about people who genuinely need help? Children, the elderly, people with disabilities? Are you saying we should just abandon them? That sounds cruel. This is where people confuse rational selfishness with indifference. Ayn Rand would say, helping someone you care about is not sacrifice if it genuinely makes your life better. If you love your child, taking care of them isn't sacrifice. It's an investment in someone you value. Their happiness contributes to yours. That's self-interest. If you see a stranger in genuine emergency, a car accident on the side of the road, helping them costs you very little and aligns with your values. You'd want someone to help you in that situation. You value living in a world where people act on benevolence. That's still self-interest, properly understood. The difference is motive and context. You're not helping because you owe it to them. You're not helping out of guilt or duty. You're helping because it aligns with your values and genuinely feels right to you. What rational selfishness rejects is the demand that you sacrifice your life, your goals, your happiness for strangers, or for people who refuse to help themselves. The family member who constantly creates crises and expects you to fix them. The person who could work but chooses not to and demands you support them. The government that takes your earnings to fund programs you don't believe in. That's not emergency help. That's exploitation dressed up as compassion. Rational selfishness says, you can be generous when generosity comes from genuine care and abundance, not from guilt or force. You can help people you value. But you don't owe anyone your life, and you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. The before and after. Before, meet Jennifer. She's 34. She works a job she hates because her parents told her it was practical. She stays in a relationship that makes her feel small because breaking up would disappoint her family. She spends her weekends doing favors for friends who never reciprocate because saying no makes her feel guilty. Jennifer was raised on sacrifice. She was taught that good people put others first, that her wants don't matter as much as other people's needs, that self-care is selfish unless she's completely burned out. So she lives in this constant state of resentment. She's angry at her boyfriend but can't articulate why. She's exhausted but feels guilty resting. She looks at her life and doesn't recognize herself anymore. She's become a supporting character in everyone else's story. Late at night, she wonders, is this it? Is this what life is supposed to be? And she feels guilty for even asking. After. Then Jennifer discovers Ayn Rand. At first, it makes her uncomfortable. Wait, I'm allowed to live for myself? She starts small. She tells a friend no when asked to help move for the third time this year. The guilt is overwhelming. But the friend doesn't end the friendship. The world doesn't collapse. She has an honest conversation with her boyfriend. I need a partner who supports my ambitions, not someone who needs me to stay small so they feel secure. He gets defensive. They break up. It hurts. But for the first time in years, she feels like she can breathe. She starts pursuing the career she actually wants. It's scary. Her parents don't understand. You're throwing away security for a dream? That's selfish. And here's what Jennifer realizes. They're right, it is selfish. And there's nothing wrong with that. 2 years later, Jennifer is unrecognizable. She's in a relationship with someone who celebrates her ambition instead of fearing it. She's building a business she's passionate about. She has fewer friends, but the ones she has actually add value to her life instead of draining it. She's not cold. She's not cruel. She's actually more generous now because her generosity comes from abundance, not obligation. When she helps someone, it's because she wants to, and that makes it meaningful. Most importantly, she likes herself. She respects herself. She looks in the mirror and sees someone who lives with integrity, who honors her own values, who refuses to betray herself for the comfort of others. That's the transformation rational selfishness creates. Not selfishness in the ugly sense. Not coldness. Not isolation. Clarity. Self-respect. A life that's actually yours. Ayn Rand would say, this is what it means to live. Not to survive by serving others. Not to fade into the background of your own existence. But to stand in the center of your life and say, this is mine. I built this. And I'm not apologizing for it. That's not arrogance, that's dignity, and you have every right to it. Let's bring this together. Rational selfishness is not the ugliness you've been warned about. It's not taking from others, hurting people, or living without consideration for consequences. That's irrational behavior, and Ayn Rand rejected it completely. Rational selfishness is the recognition that your life is yours. That your happiness is your responsibility and your right. That you don't exist to serve others and others don't exist to serve you. That the moral way to live is through voluntary trade, mutual respect, and the refusal to sacrifice yourself or demand sacrifice from anyone else. It's guided by reason, not whims. It requires thinking long-term, acting with integrity, and building genuine value instead of trying to take it. It leads to stronger relationships because they're based on choice, not obligation. It leads to better work because you're pursuing what actually matters to you. It leads to self-respect because you're finally living in alignment with your own values. The world has taught you to feel guilty for having a self. Ayn Rand is telling you that guilt is a lie. Your life is not a resource for others to consume. It's yours to build, to enjoy, to make meaningful. So here's your challenge. Identify one area of your life where you've been sacrificing yourself out of guilt or obligation. One relationship, one commitment, one pattern where you've been putting someone else's comfort above your own well-being. And ask yourself honestly, is this actually serving my life? Or am I just afraid of being called selfish? If it's the second one, you know what you need to do. If this video challenged the way you think about selfishness, hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one boundary you've been afraid to set because you thought it would make you selfish? Let's talk about it. And if you want to keep seeing life through the Rand lens, subscribe to this channel. Because we're just getting started dismantling the lies you've been told about morality, relationships, and what it means to live a good life. Your life belongs to you. Start acting like it.